Well, that was a special performance by Mr. Constable's grade 6 students from Prince Charles School in Edmonton, and they're part of the OASIS program, which provides students with Cree language instruction and cultural teachings and activities. The school is a special place in the heart of the No Stone Left Alone founder, Maureen Bianchini Purvis, who attended the school as a child. This song was a children's blessing song. It's a song of protection, inspired by an eagle splashing into the water. And it was written by Cheryl Siwapegam from the Little Red River Cree Nation. Cheryl is a music therapist, educator, musician in Edmonton, and it begins today's No Stone Left Alone ceremony as a symbol of reconciliation. And we acknowledge today's ceremony is taking place in Treaty 6 territory. So good morning, I'm Gord Steinke, and I'm honored to be your host for today's ceremony. Now, to ensure safety during the COVID-19 pandemic, participants in today's events at Beechmount Cemetery in Edmonton are all adhering to strict COVID-19 protocols approved by Alberta Health Services. You'll also notice a number of our elements have been recorded in advance and from previous ceremonies to keep everyone safe. Now, despite the ongoing pandemic, it's still very important to us to carry on the No Stone Left Alone tradition. This is the 11th year for the event, where children from all across Canada and around the world learn the importance of Remembrance Day and honoring our soldiers and veterans. Let's now rise for O Canada, as performed by Rio Terrace fine arts teacher Jason Duker.
O Canada, our home and native land, to patriot love in all of us command. Cautambra se porte le paix, il se porte la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
This is video of the Color Party, which was taken during our ceremony in 2018. The Color Party is made up of volunteers who carry the flags, including the Legion banner. Now, all have bravely served their country, and we're using video from our past ceremonies to ensure the safety of our veterans during the COVID-19 pandemic. We'd like to thank these men for their service to Canada. And you may be seated now. Well, this year, our ceremony has a special focus on remembering the war in Afghanistan. Canadian soldiers were first deployed to that country 20 years ago in 2001. The combat mission ended in 2011. 158 Canadians lost their lives. We also want to thank all the educators who've worked through the pandemic and all their students joining us today. Throughout our program, we'll hear from dignitaries, veterans, members of the Canadian Army, and students from right across Canada. Well, since its inception in 2011, No Stone Left Alone began with just one ceremony in Edmonton, and now ceremonies are held right across the country and around the world. A special No Stone Left Alone ceremony took place last month in Anyux, a remote location in northwestern British Columbia. The town had been owned by a copper company, and when World War I broke out, over 400 men from the area left to fight. Over 100 were injured, several were killed in action. The town was eventually abandoned, along with the graves of 15 Great War veterans. Now, those graves were rediscovered in 2016 by a group of Canadian Rangers who began work to remediate the cemetery. They also make a yearly journey with several Stewart Junior Rangers to care for the headstones and lay poppies of remembrance. As mentioned, the No Stone Left Alone movement has grown quite a bit since it first began over a decade ago. The program now stretches from coast to coast to coast, with ceremonies this year from Victoria to Nunavut to new ceremonies in Newfoundland. Now, in total, 83 ceremonies in Canada will take place, and 2 internationally in Krakow, Poland, and Bergen op Zoom, Netherlands. An estimated 60,656 headstones are being honored this year, with nearly 5,000 students involved. Her Excellency, Governor General Mary May Simon, also sent a message of support for the No Stone Left Alone event today, honoring the legacy of our Canadian Armed Forces as we approach Remembrance Day, and that message can be found on the No Stone Left Alone website. We're very honored today to be joined by Her Honor, the Honorable Salma Lakhani, the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. And now let's head back to Beechmount Cemetery.
Thank you so much, Gord. Hello on another beautiful, crisp, sunny Alberta morning, and good morning to our dignitaries, to our students and teachers here in Edmonton, and indeed across the country, who are joining us for this very important ceremony of remembrance. Thank you for the wonderful performance by the Prince Charles Elementary School students of A Children's Blessing, and thank you also to Jason for the beautiful rendition of O Canada. Before I go further, I want to acknowledge all our First People who have called this place home for thousands of years and who welcomed us here to make our own lives. May we always dwell together on these lands with peace and respect, and may we all be committed to the path of reconciliation. As you may know, this is a special year for the poppies that we proudly wear every fall, and that our students will be carefully placing today on the gravestones of our veterans. This year, the poppy is marking its 100th anniversary as Canada's symbol of remembrance. To our young students, 100 years may seem like an enormously long time. However, I think that the poppy has really only just begun its journey, because the gratitude we feel for our veterans and our fallen heroes will never end, and indeed should never end. From the over 600,000 young Canadians who fought in the First World War under the most horrific of conditions, many of them never to return home, to our young women and men who were prepared to sacrifice their precious lives more recently in Afghanistan, fighting for the values that mean so much to us all, of gratitude that we owe them. We will never be able to thank them enough for their selfless service and sacrifices, whether they served a century ago or more recently. Their stories and their names should remain in our hearts and minds for always. Remember also that our heroes in uniform, who are fortunate enough to return home, need and deserve our care, understanding, and support. We can also ensure that each generation of Canadians understands the sacrifices that our women and men in uniform have made on our behalf, and we can all commit to cherishing the gifts of peace, freedom, human rights, and the rule of law that they stood for. That is what the No Stone Left Alone program is all about, and that is why we are coming together today. A big, warm thank you to everyone at the No Stone Left Alone Memorial Foundation, and especially the founders Maureen Purvis and Randall Purvis for your vision and commitment to this very important cause to educate, act, and honor our military fallen that lay in fields of honor across Canada. Imagine this initiative was a local Edmonton initiative, and it has now gone national, and I believe it's gone global too. So thank you so much to the founders. As Her Majesty the Queen's representative in Alberta, I offer my most heartfelt thanks to all our Canadians in uniform for their tireless service. To the teachers, thank you for everything that you do to help our young people grow into capable, resilient, and thoughtful citizens. To the students taking part in this program, thank you for the energy, the love you are bringing to this task. Although the people we are honoring today are no longer with us, I think that they would be touched by your actions, and I know that they would be so proud to see a new generation of young Canadians like yourselves carrying on our meaningful traditions of remembrance. Finally, to the families of the fallen, I hope that you will find some sense of comfort and peace in the knowledge that our commitment to honoring your loved ones is as enduring as the poppies we wear each year to remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll now hear a message from the Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, who's in attendance today at Beechmount Cemetery.
Thank you, Gord. It is a privilege to be here with Her Honor, the Honourable Lieutenant Governor Salma Lakhani. Thank you, Brigadier General, fellow elected leaders, and proud Canadians of all ages, especially and most importantly, the students who join us here today in Edmonton and virtually across the country. The great chronicler of the Holocaust, Elie Wiesel, wrote that remembering is a noble and necessary act. The call to memory reaches us from the very dawn of history. No commandment figures so frequently or so insistently in the Bible. It is incumbent upon us to remember the good that we have received and the evil that we have suffered. And so we gather here today, as we will in ceremonies across the country throughout Remembrance Week, to discharge that sacred obligation of memory. We have gathered to remember those who served and those who fell, generations of Canadian men and women in uniform who volunteered to leave their families and to confront dire threats to our freedom on battlegrounds around the world, and to remember those who laid down their lives unflinchingly when the time came. We would not be here today exercising our freedoms in a country that champions human dignity were it not for them and were it not for their sacrifice. We also would not be here today without the initiative of the fantastic people behind the No Stone Left Alone Memorial Foundation. This amazing organization started right here in Alberta, born from a dying veteran's last wish and a daughter's resolve to carry it out. Thank you to No Stone Left Alone's founder and president, my friend Maureen Bianchini-Purvis, and to everyone who has joined to take the foundation's message to school children across Canada and around the world. You are doing essential work in passing on the torch of memory, that torch about which Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae wrote in Flanders Fields. Kids of every generation need to grasp the magnitude of the sacrifices of sailors and airmen and the sacrifices that were made for them. They need a real, deep, and personal understanding that goes beyond just textbooks and facts. That's exactly what No Stone Left Alone provides. You help children understand that their freedoms are thanks to the sacrifices made by our glorious fallen and by our veterans and by our serving members of Her Majesty's Canadian Armed Forces. Through your efforts, kids see that there are stories under each and every stone. They start to appreciate that the fallen were once people like them, people with dreams who had to put those dreams on hold and risk their lives. Because of the foundation, students are learning that there is nothing inevitable about our rights and freedoms, and that our blessings in this country were bought and paid for with blood and sacrifice. No stone ought to be left alone, because we owe those beneath them everything that we have. They did their duty, just as our men and women in uniform do every day across Canada and in deployment around the world. So for the fallen, remember them as we should, lest they forget.
Kenny. Now, we're going to hear from newly elected Mayor of Edmonton, Amarjeet Sohi.
Thank you, Gord. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here on Treaty 6 territory. On behalf of City Council and the people of Edmonton, I'm honored to be part of this year's ceremony. Here at home and around the world, we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the men and women who fought and fell for our freedom. We also think of those who continue to risk their lives overseas to keep the peace, halt the spread of hate and violent extremism, and protect the quality of life we all hold so dear. Today, we honor the soldiers with the Legion symbol of remembrance, the poppy. We connect our young people, our soldiers, our veterans, and our community. These connections, this education can build bridges that will last a lifetime. Now more than ever, youth are experiencing sacrifice in ways they have never before. While they're not standing in the line of fire, they're learning firsthand what sacrifice means and how their actions affect the world around them. By immersing our youth in this program, it takes these lessons one step further. It helps them better understand the traumas and tragedies of the past and the work we must do together to ensure that these mistakes are never repeated. This also helps our youth better respect and appreciate the sacrifices that were made by so many brave people who came before them. Thank you to the No Stone Left Alone Memorial Foundation, Lord Strathcona's Horse, Royal Canadians, the Royal Canadian Legion, and many organizers, volunteers, and students who took part in this effort today. It is inspiring to see so many people involved in something so vital and so important. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. Now, as our ceremony continues, we're going to head back to Beechmount Cemetery now to hear from Brigadier General William Fletcher, the commander, 3rd Canadian Division and Joint Task Force. Brigadier General Fletcher has served in a number of roles since first joining the Canadian military in 1989. In 1997, Brigadier General Fletcher was deployed to Bosnia with the Lord Strathcona's Horse Battle Group. In 2005, he commanded C Company, which deployed to Afghanistan in 2006. It was during this tour that he was awarded the Star of Military Valor. Brigadier General Fletcher assumed command of 3rd Canadian Division and Joint Task Force West in August 2020.
Your Honor, Minister Boissonnault, Premier Kenny, Mayor Sohi, families of the fallen, Maureen, distinguished guests and veterans, and by distinguished guests I include the remarkable youth standing amongst the headstones in front of me, a sight of which is very powerful in and of itself, ladies and gentlemen. We find ourselves together today among the graves of those who have selflessly served our country. This place, one of many across Canada, and indeed across the globe, is special. It is a concrete and visceral reminder of the cost of freedom. It is equal parts jarring and peaceful, painful and comforting. Reflecting in this location, I feel a sense of sadness. The sadness for loss, the loss of those men and women who dedicated themselves to protecting Canadians in their time of need, through war and through peace. When we look at the number of Canadians who have served and those who we've lost over the course of our history as a nation, it's often easy to become numb given the sheer scale. 60,000 lost during the First World War, over 44,000 during the Second World War, 516 in Korea, 158 in Afghanistan, and more during the interwar periods. Add to this the number of women and men injured and the families forever changed in the process. And inside each of these numbers, there was a person with hopes, dreams, loved ones, and their passing left a void that could never be filled. It is the people that we gather to remember. This is especially poignant given the recent events of the past year, which has brought Canada's service and sacrifice in Afghanistan back into the collective consciousness. It's actually hard for me to believe that we're only a few short months away from marking the 20th anniversary, the beginning of our involvement in that war. It is fitting then that the theme of today's ceremony is Afghanistan. Canada's mission in Afghanistan has made an indelible impact on a generation of Canadians. The war still resonates with Canadians today, and the legacy of those who served is still being written. But notwithstanding, the faces, the names, the stories of our fallen are carved permanently into the memories of those who are left. Their families, who every day wake to face the loss of their loved one, continue to inspire us with their courage and their resilience. To the families of the fallen, thank you. Know that your loved ones will not be forgotten. Regardless of what may come, our soldiers did their duty, as they have always done and as they will always do. But as I reflect further, that sadness that I feel is tempered by both a sense of gratitude and a sense of optimism. I'm grateful for the devotion, the sacrifice, and the love of those who lie here. Our living veterans, those who serve today, and their families and loved ones. Their example inspires us to strive to be worthy of their sacrifice, to be better each and every day, and to continue to serve and protect one another in this great country that is Canada. I am grateful for No Stone Left Alone, to Maureen and her team for reminding us all to honor and preserve the legacy of sacrifice represented by the gravestones and the monument here today. Regardless of when or where they served, the women and men who did so were not motivated by glory or personal gain. We often use the word service without truly considering what it means. For those who do serve and their families, it means taking care of one another. It means doing what must be done, knowing fully what the cost may be. It means subordinating your own comfort and desires to the needs of a nation, and it means accomplishing the mission. They accomplished their mission in spite of hardships the likes of which many cannot imagine, and many paid the ultimate price. They proved to be a bright light in the midst of some of humanity's darkest moments. This is as true today as it ever was. I'm also grateful for the youth gathered before us, and for the efforts of movements like No Stone Left Alone to educate them, to ensure that they know the absolute necessity to remember those who have come before, but also that they know the human cost of war and conflict. I have 2 children. They're both already better people than I am. The freedom and privilege they enjoy will not be taken for granted. And finally, as I reflect here in this hallowed space, I am optimistic that those same children who today are learning will tomorrow continue to work to make Canada and indeed the world a better place. I take comfort knowing they will stand guard over us, watch over us, and will have the wisdom and courage to ensure that they do not have to know war and strife. Ladies and gentlemen, we owe so much to so many. Each and every one of them deserves a moment in our thoughts and prayers. We will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, we're now going to hear from Sherry Clark. She lost her 22-year-old son, Private Joel Vincent Weeb, in a roadside bombing in Afghanistan in June 2007. Sherry Clark is speaking today on behalf of the families of the fallen.
Good morning, and thank you to everyone who is taking the time to participate in or watch the No Stone Left Alone ceremony. While Remembrance Day and ceremonies of remembrance, like No Stone Left Alone, are somber occasions, I can't tell you how happy it makes my heart to see so many people who are taking part in an act of remembrance. 100 years ago in 1921, the poppy became a symbol of remembrance. It was a symbol to honor and to remember the sacrifice of the soldiers who fought and died in World War I. Since then, many other conflicts have followed, and many other soldiers have stepped up and volunteered to serve their country. They went to far-off lands, to places and battles most of us cannot imagine. Many came home, many did not. My son Joel is one of those soldiers who died in the fields of a far-off land. Joel was a loving son, an amazing brother, a proud uncle, a lover of animals, a voracious reader and movie watcher. He loved playing video games and especially loved family meals and gatherings. He gave the best hugs and had an amazing sense of humor. He truly was the happiest man in NATO. Like Joel, every soldier has a story. Every soldier had a family who loved them and who misses them. It is left to us to remember their sacrifices, their courage and their bravery. Every time someone places a poppy on their headstone, every time someone says their name, they are remembered. It is a moment their families take comfort in knowing someone, somewhere, is thinking of their soldier. Even though their hopes and dreams died with them, their memory lives on. Their dreams became our tomorrows, and we should never forget what they gave. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. We now have two very special readings today, ones you likely know. Reading the Commitment to Remember is Jasper Lawson from Brandon, Manitoba, and reading In Flanders Fields is Julia Brandner from Vernon, British Columbia.
They were young, as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them, we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. We will remember them.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours, hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Thanks to you both. Well, every year students who take part in the No Stone Left Alone ceremonies are asked to write letters of reflection to talk about their experiences and what they've learned. Well, this year we have a letter from Beckett Yates from Edmonton.
Dear No Stone Left Alone, the arrival was somber and quiet. I thought about the number of graves, no, lives in the cemetery, and the amount of their bravery, passion, and sacrifice for our country. I was filled with emotions that one organization could commemorate our soldiers from BC to Poland. Happy that we can still remember their courage. Sad that they did not get to experience our freedom. No Stone Left Alone gave me one of the most thoughtful experiences of my life, and I hope that No Stone Left Alone touched your heart as much as it did mine. Thank you for remembering them and honoring their loss.
Thanks, Beckett. Well, the next part of our ceremony will be familiar to many of you. Well, some of the students watching may not know why we observe these traditions today and on Remembrance Day. We will hear a military bugler play the last post. This traditionally signals the end of the day and serves as a tribute to the dead. We will hear a signal to mark the beginning of 2 minutes of silence. It's a time to reflect and a sign of respect for those at home and abroad who've served in times of war. The silence will be broken by the playing of the lament to commemorate Highland regiments. And finally, the bugler, one more time, playing the rouse to signify waking up to a new day and also the resurrection of the spirit of the fallen. We now ask those of you watching and in attendance at Beechmount to please rise as we start these events with Padre Christoph Deutschmann. He's a chaplain with the Lord Strathcona's Horse with the prayer of remembrance.
We acknowledge the great responsibility which rests on our leaders in Canada, the Commonwealth, and around the world. Bless especially our Sovereign Queen, Elizabeth, and those in authority under her. Give them wisdom, guidance, and counsel as they seek to establish peace, justice, freedom, and order among all nations. Almighty God, strengthen and protect all members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are serving on the land, in the air, and on the sea. Support and protect us in times of conflict, during times of peace, and in our training. Keep us safe from all evil. Give us courage, loyalty, and integrity as we carry the torch forward, and grant that in all things we may serve without reproach. All these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Well, just a spectacular flyby on a beautiful morning. That was Captain Alexander Soup Magnoldo in a CF-18 from 401 Tactical Fighter Squadron based in Cold Lake. 401 is the oldest squadron in the RCAF with origins dating back to November 1918. Well, I'd now like to introduce Warrant Officer Thea Becker from 2051 19th Alberta Dragoons Cadets in Edmonton to read the Act of Remembrance.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Well, one of the most important parts of our ceremonies is, of course, laying poppies on the headstones. And this year, the poppy, as we know it, is marking 100 years of being a symbol of remembrance. It was first started by Madame Anna Guerin, later christened the Poppy Lady from France. She was inspired by In Flanders Fields by Canadian John McCrae to adopt the distribution of the poppy on Armistice Day as a way to raise money for veterans' needs and also to remember those who had given their lives during the First World War. In July of 1921, the Great War Veterans Association, which would later unify with other veteran groups to form the Canadian Legion, adopted the poppy as the flower of remembrance. And every year, the Royal Canadian Legion collects donations in exchange for a poppy. This year, the Legion has issued a special centennial poppy. Here to tell us more about its importance is Mac Torrey, the past president of Branch 175 Kingsway Legion in Edmonton.
These are a memento to celebrate the 100 year of the poppy as it originally was designed. To remember that people have sacrificed for everything that they have and enjoy today so that the next generation or two don't repeat what happened to our forefathers.
Thank you, Mac. And for those who are still standing, you may all be seated. The laying of wreaths is an important part of a remembrance ceremony. Several wreaths have already been laid on the cenotaph at Beechmount Cemetery in Edmonton in order to ensure social distancing. Now, each wreath is laid to pay respects to an individual or a group. Now, we will watch as the remaining wreaths are laid, and beginning with Her Honor, Salma Lakhani. Now on behalf of Canada, the Honourable Randy Boisonneau, Minister of Tourism. On behalf of the province of Alberta, Premier Jason Kenney. On behalf of the City of Edmonton, Mayor Amarjeet Sohi. Brigadier General William Fletcher on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces. And in honor of all those who served and those who were lost in Afghanistan, Nick Grimshaw. Well, as you know, the purpose of today's ceremony is to pass on the importance of our military history to Canada's youth. Poppies will be laid at the cenotaph today by the families of No Stone Left Alone, including founder Maureen Bianchini Purvis and Randall Purvis. 30 students from Jean Forest Academy at Ecole St. Cecilia Junior High are also laying poppies in the field of honor. Now, we'd like to thank all of you so much for joining us today for our No Stone Left Alone live stream. As the poppies are being laid, we share once again the Foundation's tribute song performed by Rebecca Lappa.
As summer breathes a last and the leaves begin to change, I think of loved ones who have gone and the ones that still remain. Look up to the sky and the wind whispering to say there will be no stone left alone. Of all the kin that passed, there are many I hold dear, but the ones who took up arms come to mind this time of year. Our servicemen and women whose sacrifice made clear there will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my uncle who came back without his mind. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. Underneath the blood and dirt, I see how young they must have been. Outwardly they're strong, but inside they're trembling. The world's history etched into their skin. There will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my sister who came back without a limb. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. I walk into the cemetery, everyone is here again. The children clean the headstones, the old tell stories about the names. I lay my poppy down and the others do the same. There will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my brother who came back with without a friend. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. I lay my puppy down and the others do the same. We won't stop till there's no stone left alone.